and welcome to OuiOuiGigi. My name's Gina and I wanted to start this YouTube to share some recipes that I love to make, talk about some old movies and fashion. So let's get started. We're gonna start with a shepherd's pie, but we're gonna do a few renditions of our own. A shepherd's pie is a dish from Ireland, Scotland, England. It's kind of like, basically like you put meat and some sort of vegetables and either a gravy or a sauce, potatoes and cheese, and then it's like a casserole and you just bake it all together. But I like to do it with chicken. So we're gonna shred some chicken and then we're gonna put broccoli and we're gonna put some mashed potatoes, but not a lot. And you can feel free to modify this however you want. If you wanna skip the potatoes, feel free. If you wanna add more, go for it. If you wanna just make it with ground beef, really, you'll see it's very easy to modify. And then the movie we're gonna talk about today is Marilyn Monroe's Some Like It Hot. This is one of my favorite movies today, so let's get started. Let me first. So we're actually just gonna lay out some foil. Sorry, that probably didn't sound great. We're gonna lay out some foil just so we can season the chicken onto that. It's a little bit easier to be able to flip it, and then you don't have to wash a plate afterwards. So hey, less dishes. Now back to our movie, Some Like It Hot was filmed and produced in 1959 in Coronado Island, California. If you've never been there, I highly recommend. It's beautiful, it's scenic, it's got like this pretty white sand beach. I'm actually gonna move this because I'm just dripping. So it's basically, my chicken was in a bath, so that's why it's wet and in water. And that's actually an easy and safe way to defrost your chicken a little bit quicker. If it's frozen, put it into a bowl like this of water, and then run it under tap water. You can't just leave it sitting in water. That will produce bacteria. So you should have water constantly running. So it's kind of one of those things, like if you don't want to have a super high water bill, maybe don't do it this way. Just take it out and put it in the fridge the night before, and it should be defrosted and ready to go. Now we're just gonna dry off the chicken a little bit because it was in the water. The seasoning's not really gonna stick to it as well, so we're just kind of gonna pat it dry, just a little bit. We don't wanna totally like dry it, but just to get rid of some excess water. Otherwise, your seasonings they won't stick as well, so it's just a little easier. And we're gonna start with some basic seasonings. We have salt and pepper. And then we're also gonna add some more interesting ones. We have seasoning salt. So we're gonna be light on the regular salt because we're adding seasoning salt and nobody wants anything too salty. We're gonna add Italian seasonings, which is a mix of oregano, garlic, parsley, normally a little rosemary, maybe thyme. Basil. I'm very light on basil as a seasoning because I feel like it's a very strong flavor. So we're just gonna lightly add a little basil. And then oregano. Oregano is also a strong flavor, but it's one that I really like. So since I'm the only one eating this, I'm gonna be generous. Sorry about that. I wanted to move my camera down a little bit because you probably couldn't actually see the chicken. So It's been salted and peppered. Let's also put on an apron because I forgot to do that at first. Got that? Normally I would be wearing an apron, but I just moved, so I actually can't find which box my aprons are in. So maybe I should have unpacked or something before I made a YouTube channel, but who cares? Okay, if you're wondering how much seasoning you should put on your food, the proper Italian way is to completely cover the top of your food. Don't make like a thick, coarse layer, but there shouldn't be big spots where you can't see salt or where you can't see pepper. I mean, you're gonna mix it all in, but in order for it to be completely flavored. So we're gonna continue. A little basil. Generous amount of oregano, that's what I like. Season it according to your own taste as well. Let me move this just so you can see it. So if you can see, all of this liquid is what's coming out. Maybe you can't see it as well, that it's, there you go. That's liquid, and we didn't want that. So I'm gonna kind of like paper towel that out a little bit. Okay, so now we're gonna season the other side of it. So a lot of people have asked me if this is similar to like a pot pie, because most times that you hear chicken pie, it's chicken pot pie and not some sort of shepherd's pie. I really don't think it's one that a lot of people know. And it is, it's not baked, and it doesn't have a crust like a pot pie would. So those are kind of its main differences, but that's okay. I mean, it tastes different as well. It's not like in a gravy, like a pot pie is baked into a pie crust and it has a gravy on it. Shepherd's pie, I'm not really gonna put much of a gravy, but it will have some. That's just my personal preference. You put as much gravy as you want. Okay, so back to our movie, which I've forgotten to talk about a little bit. Some Like It Hot was filmed Coronado Island, 1959. It was released in March 29th. And it was, I believe, Marilyn Monroe's 25th film. Correct me if I'm wrong. But she had done lots of films actually before then. So we're gonna put olive oil into our pan. You can be as generous as you like. I just put enough so that way we can start searing the chicken. And then while the chicken's searing a little bit, we're gonna chop our vegetables to put in with the chicken. Let me show you all why. So take the pieces of chicken and lay them kind of as flat as you can, but if you can't, that's okay. It's gonna, I mean, it's gonna be cooked either way. So we're not super worried about this, but it is important to first sear the chicken before you put it into the sauce to kind of boil it. We're actually gonna poach our chicken, which means that we're gonna cook it under water. That's what poaching is. It's important for first the chicken to be seared a little bit on both sides, because if you just poach it, it can kind of get this like boiled meat taste and texture, and it's just not as chewy and flavorful. So we just wanna make sure that it's the best it can be. Now, as you may see, I am all out of room. So we're actually gonna save the rest of that chicken. We're actually not gonna use it in our recipe anyways. So let me show you, I'll just put it in the fridge. And a good chef would probably be like, oh, let's just cook it right now, but I just don't need it. So there's no use to waste it, and just say I'm gonna cook anyways tomorrow, so. storing chicken, I like to put it into a sealed bag. Make sure that none of the juices and germs can get out. And then it can stay in the fridge for up to 5 days thawed. But you should be careful with it. I would recommend probably just 3 days. And if you don't cook it by the 3rd day, throw it away. So we're actually gonna put in some white onion in this. We're gonna mash our own potatoes, and we're also gonna put in some broccoli. Maybe I should not show you that from a bag. Oh well. Where else do you get broccoli? I mean, you could get fresh broccoli. It's all up to you. Okay. So we're gonna cut our onion. We're actually gonna dice it. So when I dice vegetables, I don't really care if the slices are a little thick because we're gonna cut it up anyways. Oops. And we're gonna try not to cut my hand in the process. Gina. Sorry, the skin on this onion was thick. Let me show you all. So just kind of like these thick slices, and then we're gonna dice them. If you're used to cooking, feel free to dice as fast as you would like. If you're not used to it, please be careful and don't try to like rush or, I don't know, be impressive or something, because much more important is your safety and making sure you have all 4 fingers, 5 fingers. If you only have 4, that's already an issue. Actually, you only do have 4 on each hand because the thumb's not considered a finger. Little known fact, or I guess little appreciated fact. You can make these slices as big as you want. I'm kind of doing about that size for a slice or for a dice. So I'll show you what it looks like. So about that big, we're actually gonna cook it down. So it's okay that we're not doing super small. So now, let's get back to our movie again. Some Like It Hot starred Marilyn Monroe, Jack Lemmon, and Tony Curtis. So first we'll talk about Marilyn Monroe. She is shrouded in mystery. I mean, even the way that Marilyn Monroe died is still kind of controversial. A lot of people think that she was killed. A lot of people think she overdosed. There's really, I mean, it was the 60s. She died in 1962. And there just wasn't as much DNA evidence or autopsy options as there is today. So it's hard to even find out the truth. When Marilyn Monroe filmed Some Like It Hot, she was actually married to Arthur Miller. He was a playwright known for The Crucible and Death of a Salesman. So the film Some Like It Hot actually stars around 2 musicians played by Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis. And they witness a mob murder, and then the mob is after them. So they hop on a train and pretend to be women, so which was very risque for 1959. Whoops. So yeah, so in 1959, it was pretty risque to have 2 men actually pose as women. I mean, for an entire movie. But you knew they were just pretending, and it was all for laughs. So it actually had rave reviews. It was called hilarious and wild and brilliant. And so actually people really loved it. Of course, when more people later tried to dress as women, there was some issues. So when they hop on the train, they pose as 2 women in an all-women's musical group. I think an orchestra. But that's when they meet Miss Sugar Cane, played by Marilyn Monroe. And obviously, Jack Lemmon's character starts to fall for her immediately, trying to get her attention. Whereas Tony Curtis is currently being pursued by an older millionaire man who honestly believes that he's a woman. And so, in the film, they're talking about, actually let's talk about Tony Curtis for a little bit. He was married at this point to Janet Leigh. She was Jamie Lee and Kelly Curtis's mother. She was also known for her role in Psycho, the Alfred Hitchcock film. She was the woman who screamed in the shower, which actually came out the following year, 1960. Tony Curtis went on to marry, I believe it was 7 more women in his lifetime. He had 8 wives total, which is crazy. I believe 8 or 9 wives. He was married quite a few times. Giving Elizabeth Taylor a run for her money, wasn't he? We're just chopping our potatoes into quarters, so that way they're easier to boil, because this will take forever to break down. Also, the proper way to boil a potato, in order to mash it, is you should take the skin off. I prefer my mashed potatoes with skin, so I'm not going to take the skin off, but I'm telling you all the proper culinary way to do it, which apparently I'm not following because my hair is down, I don't have an apron on, so really we're at home, people. And then if you find things like this, like these little ugly spots on potatoes, feel free to just cut that out. I don't want to eat that, so I'm gonna just take it off and make sure that the flesh underneath is white. If it's still that gross looking flesh on the outside, then you want to cut that off as well. And we can hear my chicken sizzling finally. So, Tony Curtis, the ladies' man. But, you know, that's okay. Now, so let's get back to the film. Actually, yeah. So Tony Curtis is being pursued by the millionaire man. Jack Lemmon is pursuing Marilyn Monroe's character. And so really it's just it's comedy. And then also at the same time, the mob has finally caught up with Jack Lemmon's character and Tony Curtis's. So now they're trying to really convince everyone that they are, in fact, women. Which is not easy to do. Not very easy at all. So here's like half of a potato, and see, we're actually cutting it. I think I said into quarters, we're cutting it into 8ths. So each half is cut into quarters. Sorry about that, that was a little confusing, wasn't it? And now that my chicken's sizzling, we're gonna flip it just to make sure both sides are seared evenly. Now that that's doing that, we're also gonna add our onions. You can add the onions first, before the chicken even if you want. I just didn't have them ready, so it's okay. It's not gonna affect the flavor. I mean, it will make it stronger if you added it first, but I didn't do that and it's okay. It's gonna taste fine. It's gonna taste great either way. Okay. Now that we've got all of our onions in there, we're gonna let that sear again. And we're gonna get out chicken stock. Oh, we're also gonna add our broccoli, I'm sorry. So I didn't give you any measurements on the onions. I used about half of an onion, and then for the broccoli, I'm gonna use about a cup. More like a cup and a half of the broccoli, which is fine. We're gonna put about a cup and a half of chicken stock and about a cup of water. Maybe less than a cup of water. Because we really don't want it super watery, but we do want to be able to boil it. Because we're, again, poaching the chicken. We're not grilling it, so that way we can shred it. So now let's discuss Marilyn Monroe a little bit more. She was, again at this time, married to Arthur Miller, her third and final husband. Let's see. She was only about 33 years old when the movie was filmed. So she was still pretty young, relatively. We're actually gonna add more chicken stock. We're actually gonna do like a cup chicken stock and a cup water. So yeah, she was young, and I mean her career was vibrant. Drop everything interesting about Marilyn Monroe. And we're gonna check our chicken, see if it's white on this side, which is what we want. So now we're gonna reduce the heat to low. And we're gonna add our chicken stock. It's gonna steam probably, so just be aware. Or it's not going to at all, and it's gonna trick us. And then we're actually gonna cover that with it vented. So now we have to wait probably about an hour for the chicken to really boil. Because we're cooking it at such a low heat, we really don't want it to cook too fast. Otherwise, it's not gonna be shreddable, and it's gonna be a little hard and dry, actually. So we're gonna wait. And then about 30 minutes before the chicken's done, we're gonna start boiling some water and put the potatoes in. Okay? So if you wanna tell how good your chicken is, if it's done yet, how much time it needs, you can actually take your chicken and try to break it apart. See how this is still sticking together, and it's actually been cooking an hour and a half. So I had it on very low heat. But if you see how it's still just sticking together, none of it's just falling apart when you touch it, then you know that you still have to finish cooking. So I actually turned the heat up a little bit, just for the sake of time, and then we'll let it simmer. Okay, our chicken is now ready to be shredded. See how easily it comes apart, barely pulling at it. And then our potatoes are kind of basically the same way. You can also now kind of just squish them apart. I'm gonna let them cook a tiny bit longer, and then they should be good. So it's been actually a lot longer than I expected it to be for our chicken to cook, but I put it at a low heat because I would rather it be at a low heat for a short amount of time than to be at a high heat and then just kind of burn everything. So we're gonna actually turn off the stove, and we're gonna get a bowl to shred our chicken in. And you don't have to cook it perfectly or shred it perfectly, I mean. I want it to be fairly well shredded, but it is going into a casserole dish. So, I mean, if you're like shredding it for something else, like maybe you're shredding chicken for tacos, yeah, I'd probably shred it a little bit better and focus more on it. But since mine isn't gonna do that, I don't really care. So now, also, let's continue talking about our movie. So, Jack Lemmon also starred in this movie. He was the love interest of Marilyn Monroe. And he was also kind of like the brains between him and Tony Curtis as their characters in the movie. So he was in his first marriage I believe he only got married once or twice. His actually lasted a very long time. Oh, actually, you know what? I think he only got married once. His marriage lasted a long time. And it's sweet to actually see like a couple in Hollywood that their marriage actually lasted. You know? You don't see that every day. Okay, I think that's shredded. Water. We're gonna start by draining out the water in the potatoes, and then we're gonna take a small casserole dish and start layering. If you've never mashed potatoes, I recommend trying it. I think it's a really good way to make your own potatoes, and then they taste exactly how you want them to. And it's just fun, you know? You're just boiling the potatoes, waiting for them to cook. We're gonna add about a tablespoon of butter in here. And a little bit of cheese, which we need anyways. Actually, go ahead and add about about like half a stick of butter. Like 4 tablespoons of butter, really. I don't know why I only said 1. Now, potatoes should be mashed so well that there's no lumps. With it being into a casserole, I don't really care so much about that. But, I mean, nobody likes to just have one big hunk of potato. That's not good either. And you just keep mashing. If you cooked your potatoes long and properly enough, it really doesn't take that long to mash them. It should just take a couple of minutes. You can also use a stand mixer if you have it. I don't have one here, so we're just gonna work with what we got. So you can take a potato masher, I'm using actually a large spoon, which is actually a type of serving spoon, but it's all I have here because of moving recently, so, you know. Now we're gonna start layering. So we start with our chicken at the bottom, and nothing has to be pretty when it's just going into a casserole dish, so that's the beauty. I forgot I had my light off, sorry. Then we're gonna take this beautiful mixture and we're gonna drain it into here. Do be careful when you're doing things like that, like taking things off the stove, pouring it into something else. Be careful because you can really hurt yourself. Okay, we're gonna add a touch more of chicken stock, just so that way it's nice and juicy and the meat doesn't dry out while we're cooking again. A little splash of chicken stock. And we're also gonna add just a tiny splash of lemon juice, just to give it another little flavor. I don't have any lemons at my house. I'm using whatever I have at home. So if you don't have something, that's fine. You can use a substitute, honestly. I mean, it's okay. If you have fresh lemons though, I would definitely recommend, because fresh is always nice. Now we're going to take our beautiful golden potatoes and we're going to scrape them right on top. The beauty of this dish is kind of like one of those homey dishes. It's something I like to make when it's like colder weather and I don't know, there's just something comforting about it. Maybe it's because I grew up with it. So, I mean, if you didn't grow up with it, I hope you find it as comforting as I do. I hope you find it as good as I do, for one. If you don't find it good, you're not gonna find it comforting, that's for sure. And we're just gonna try to make this as even as possible. Let me show you all. And there we have it. And then our last step is cheese, to top it with a generous layer of shredded cheese. So this can really be whatever amount you want. I'm gonna use a lot because I like a lot of cheese. Who cares? I'm going grocery shopping today anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay. We're gonna pretend like I had that oven preheated and all that, because I totes forgot. Oops. Oh well, you know, that happens sometimes. Okay, so our casserole is now ready, our shepherd's pie. So we're gonna take it out of the oven. Okay. All right, and let's see how it looks. So there it is. It's this beautiful golden brown on the edges. I'm not gonna have to touch it, obviously. And that's what we want. We could even cook it a little longer to get more cheese golden brown, but that's okay for right now. So now let's plate it and serve it. So if you guys want it to look a little prettier when you serve it, just wait a little longer after it's out of the oven for it to be taken out. It's amazing. And then, or you can put it into a bowl as well, and then it will also look prettier when you take it out instead of just a big pile of mess. If you put it in a bowl, it'll look a lot better. I didn't think of that when I was taking it out. I saw a plate and thought plate. Thanks for spending your Sunday with me, guys. This was so much fun to make, and I will see you again next Sunday, and please watch Some Like It Hot. And have a great day. Please be safe out there. Thank you.